If you're an ambitious lifter who takes this sport seriously, who actually cares about getting better, there's something to be said about this same drive that you have that can also work against you. Now, I coach weightlifters worldwide from the complete beginner all the way up until the national and international level, and for who that I would consider the overachievers can be more susceptible to falling into some mental traps, in which the ones that I'm about to talk about today I know very well because I have struggled in every single one of them on my way to the Olympic Games and in ventures completely separate from weightlifting, and is something that I need to keep in check. So today I'm going to walk through 5 of them. 5 paradoxes, mental traps, call them whatever you want, ones from which can steal your enjoyment in the sport, stall your progress completely, if not completely burn you out. And some of these you may recognize in yourself instantly. Trap number 1 is something that I would call the gap. Picture where you believe you are right now, and then picture where you want to be on the other side. That space in between where you are now and where you believe your potential is what I would consider the gap. And many ambitious lifters measure themselves against that far end of the gap, right to where they think their potential lies. So then no matter how much you lift in training or a competition, it all just feels like a micro failure each day. You're not at your potential. I know this feeling all too well, and it sums up pretty much my entire weightlifting career. It's like when you hit a PR that only a year ago you would have killed for. And when you finally hit it, there's no real joy to be had. If anything, it's more of just a sigh of relief that you hit it. Then after that, you continue on working towards where you think you should be. I would add tens of kilos to one lift over a year's span and still genuinely feel behind because I was only ever looking at what I hadn't done yet. Now, the fix for this isn't to stop having goals altogether. It's to occasionally make a practice of turning around and looking how far you've come. Even look back at your camera roll. If you're someone like myself or many other weightlifters, our camera roll is 90% just training lifts anyway. Go back a year from now, take a look of how your lifts looked back then, and you may not even recognize how you used to lift compared to now. For some, it is night and day, and because we haven't practiced looking back at that, we have a bit of a blurred vision of how the past actually was. And also that gap that we've created in our minds completely isn't a stationary target. I also know this from personal experience. Every time we get closer to one of these, we just move the goalpost anyway. So you need to deliberately make practice of looking back how far you've come, or you're always going to be chasing that moving goalpost, or always feel that each success still isn't quite enough. Trap number 2, which is closely related, I would say, and it's the belief that when you attain or hit a goal that you will feel something from it. Whether that's once I snatch body weight, once I snatch 100 kilos, once I qualify for this competition, I'm going to have this moment where I feel satisfied, joyous, and genuinely happy. I'm going to have my moment. And what I found personally through a bunch of different accomplishments in weightlifting is that this isn't always going to come, or not anywhere near for as long as you think. Because whenever you achieve something, it becomes your new baseline, your new normal within a couple of days or weeks. That PR you just hit becomes just another Tuesday eventually. It's called the hedonic treadmill, which means that you keep running towards a feeling that resets every time you reach it. And I can tell you this from the most extreme end of it in weightlifting. I reached one of the biggest single goals that you can ever reach in this sport, stepping on the Olympic stage. I went to this event that I had given several years of my life to, and standing there having actually done it, that feeling faded very quickly. And I remember, as it was COVID at the time of this, because after the competition, I was sent back home immediately to start a 14-day quarantine in a hotel room alone. And my grand plan was after this event, I was going to spend these 14 days to live as casually as I could and really try to lap up the experience that I just had, being a once-in-a-lifetime Olympic experience, huge achievement, life goal that I had wanted since the age of 4, when I had written down that I wanted to be an Olympian when I grow up, albeit for long jump at the time, but weightlifting was close enough. All it took was 7 days into this quarantine block for me to need to start something again. So I started my coaching business from the ground up halfway through my 14-day stint, as I couldn't bear to sit there any longer and I needed to move on and do something else. Now, I'm not telling you all this to be bleak, because I'm telling you this because if an Olympic Games normalizes quickly, then that 5 kilogram PR that you think is going to complete you, where you're going to retire after you hit this milestone, likely isn't going to do that same thing that you're thinking. The number or the outcome was never the thing to start with. So chase those numbers and goals, absolutely. The process of chasing those goals is the defining feature that you'll actually look back upon, not the goal itself. Don't hand your happiness over to the outcome, because you'll move that goalpost as you get closer. Now, trap number 3 is impatience. And I would be surprised if this didn't affect us all. It's very human to be impatient. When you're ambitious, you want progress right now, if not yesterday. So when things begin to slow down, then you begin to overreach. You'll, in training, perhaps begin to chase Hail Mary attempts you know you have no business in even attempting. Or you'll hop from program to program before even finished one to try to find that magic bullet that you think is the fix, never staying anywhere long enough to actually let the progress compound. Let me tell you the dumbest thing that impatience ever made me do. Years ago, I decided before I went to training that I was not leaving the gym until I had snatched 120 kilos for the first time. I made this decision because once earlier in my training block, I made that same decision and PR'd after 12 missed attempts, as I thought this was the way to make progress. So I thought I would channel my inner old school Bulgarian approach. So I dug my heels in. 23 missed attempts later at 120 kilos, 3 hours have passed, and I had a complete mental breakdown on the spot. And that, of course, not only fucked up my session, but my entire week. What actually ended up working was stripping the weight back a little bit and build my groove a little better with some submaximal lifts over the next few weeks. And then eventually, in a heavy training session, I hit 119, then 122. Skipping 120 completely, essentially just drew to trauma from that last session. Then 1 week later, after hitting the 122, I actually hit 120 for the first time in a snatch pull plus snatch balance plus overhead squat complex, which was much seemingly easier after beating that mental milestone. Now, trap number 4 is the ego trap. Ambitious people or lifters, or let's just say, I have always had a fear or a complex from a young age of looking and being incompetent. I hate the feeling of being bad at things. So for those out there that are the same, without even noticing, we begin to drift towards doing more of the things that we're good at. And we try to avoid that stuff that we're just rubbish at, which, funnily enough, is the exact things that we need to work on to get that progress that we want. I am the poster child for this. In my early years of lifting, I loved to squat. I loved to push press because I was strong and I was positively reinforced for being good at it quite early on. So I doubled down on it and allocated a lot of my limited energy in my training session to those things. And it ended up getting to the point where one day I had back squatted triple body weight a week before I had ever snatched 100 kilos. Essentially, my bottom position in my snatch, which was holding me back, that bottom position didn't really exist at this point because sitting under the bar felt uncomfortable and it felt weak, and my ego didn't enjoy the exposure. So I avoided that one thing that I needed most. The lifters who improve the fastest are the ones who are willing to be beginners their entire career. To strengthen what we are weak at is the lowest hanging fruit for getting progress. But you need to be willing to swallow your pride and to go be bad at something and work at it. Now, trap number 5 is where your entire self-worth and identity becomes fused to the barbell, where a bad session or a bad competition can tie heavily to your self-worth at the moment. And once it gets to this point, one particular missed lift in a session that you really wanted to get can not only ruin your session, but also your entire week. And I know this because I drove myself straight into it. At one point in my career, I was training 11 heavy sessions a week, ending each week on a max out Friday. And to sustain that heavy training load at the time, I pushed everything to the side, including a career, money, social life, all of it. Because the only thing in this specific point in time that mattered to me was making my first Commonwealth Games, which was in my hometown at the time. And when you stake your whole self-worth on something like that and not have anything else at that time that you care about, every bad session in the gym stops being about a bad session of lifting, and instead it clearly becomes personal. Now, eventually, after burning out, I found out this wasn't sustainable and changed my model completely. Lifters who last decades in this sport are the ones that genuinely still find enjoyment out of it. It's of course a serious part of their life, but it isn't the entire foundation that they stand upon. Weightlifting is something, of course, but it doesn't need to be everything, and it doesn't require to have all of your mental bandwidth to improve to the maximum of your potential. When lifting is your whole identity, every normal setback that we go through feels like an emergency, like it puts you in fight or flight mode. And nobody burns out faster when every session becomes essentially life or death. So there they are, 5 mental traps for a weightlifter that has the strong ambition to become better or the best they can be. One shift that can pull you out of it is the whole philosophy behind my team. Instead of chasing maximums all the time, instead start raising your minimums. Instead of asking what is the most I can do on a particular day at the gym, instead ask what is good enough for this particular day, and then build momentum off of that. If you want consistent quality work, your lifts reviewed by an Olympian, and join a community filled with beginners through to masters lifters in their 60s, all skill levels, you can come join my Raising Minimums team free for a week. I'll leave the link in the description. And also do me a favor, if you like this video and one of these 5 traps resonated with you, be sure to leave a comment below, as I always love to hear back from those watching. And also for those that want to go deeper into their weightlifting journey, YouTube has suggested 2 more videos here that'll help you further.